It's been just over a year since the state issued a consent decree requiring Baltimore to improve its wastewater treatment plants and stop polluting the Chesapeake Bay. The Department of Public Works says their performance since then has been, quote, historic. But it comes with a cost. This morning, Jeremy Portnoy, an investigative journalist with Open the Books, is joining us live to weigh in on this. Jeremy, good morning.
Good morning, Megan.
So how much has Baltimore spent to meet its agreement with the state?
So it's cost $370 million so far to upgrade these plans, get in line with the Maryland Department of the Environment. Not all that's from this year, but the majority is. It's got $45 million for new staff and raises, money for new computer screens, pumps, sensors, and it's not done yet. They've still got until June 2027 to finish these upgrades.
Jeremy, can they get that money from different grants or other places because of what they're doing with it instead of just from taxpayers?
I mean, the majority is coming from taxpayers, right? And you've had all levels of government involved. The federal government back in 2002 told them they got to fix things. The state came in 2021. But most of it comes out of the budget. If you go back a few years, they spent $1.6 billion on this since 2020. Yeah. That's almost half of an entire budget for the city in 1 year.
Are you surprised at the amount that has been spent, or does that seem pretty reasonable given what they're trying to do?
So the main thing that really shocked us is how much they're spending on consultants for these projects. Those are people that don't do the actual upgrades. They just help them plan it out. We went back in the city checkbook. We looked at the 50 biggest consulting fees for the whole city the last couple of years. 42 of them were for these wastewater plants. These are companies like AECOM Technical Services that in other cities we've seen get paid like $255 an hour for one employee. So that's how these costs really pile up.
Jeremy, playing devil's advocate a little bit here. Is that a good thing to do, though? Because you want to make sure you're doing the project correctly.
Right. I mean, they need to do it correctly. You're absolutely right. This is an important issue. You don't want to be polluting the water. But they've had so long to get it right. Like I mentioned, the federal government told them back in 2002, hey, you're not in line with the Clean Water Act. You need to change things. And now we're over 20 years later, they're still hiring new consultants to teach them how to do it.
Is there something you think that should be done differently right now to change the course?
They need to just get it right this time, right? They had a big upgrade in 2020. It cost almost $1 billion more in 2021. So they need to ensure this is the last upgrade. You can't have finished all these, $400 or $500 million renovations, then have the state come back a few years later and say, hey, you need to spend even more.
In turn, too, thinking about if the water does get to levels that are acceptable here and where they should be, perhaps, that could bring jobs into the state as well when you're talking about cleaner initiatives.
Yeah, absolutely. And they need to hire people even right now to work on these projects. They say they've hired about 150 new people so far. So that's absolutely a positive. But looking in the grand scheme of things, when you're talking about over $1 billion, it's only a handful of jobs.
All right. Well, Jeremy, thanks for shining a light on it. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.